Hi, welcome to Chad Silversmithing. Before we get started today, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, that helps to get my channel promoted. I also love it if you leave comments. I like ideas for videos, suggestions for improvement. Um, I'm also always interested in how you do things. That's always fun to learn. So let me know those kinds of things. Today's topic is going to be a little bit different. I wanted to talk about some tools that have become essential to me in recent times. After I started the YouTube channel, I really started expanding the kinds of things I like to do as far as designs, and coming up with new and creative things each week has kind of helped me to try out some new tools or use them more frequently, as the case may be. And so this won't be a comprehensive list of all of the different uses for these 5 tools, but more a list of the things that I have found them useful for in recent times. Doing the YouTube channel has caused me to kind of open my eyes to a whole bunch of different things I hadn't tried before, and a couple of these tools are essential for those. So we'll talk about some of their uses, why I like them, and even where you can get some of them. So before we do that, though, I wanted to thank some groups of people. My first group is my patrons over on Patreon. They're a super group of people, and I really appreciate not only the financial contribution that they provide for me, but also the community that they formed over there is really nice. And there's a lot of really talented people who are willing to share their ideas, and it's turned into a great community. I really like it over there. So thanks for being that way, you guys. The other group is my YouTube subscribers. We just passed 13,500, if I remember correctly, and that's awesome. I really appreciate that. I did never dream I'd have that many subscribers, but so thank you for that. I also wanted to thank you for the nice comments you leave. Some of those are very moving, and it's especially nice to know when some of you tell me that I've helped to stimulate a new desire to do this, or rekindle the desire to do this kind of thing. That's kind of my goal. I hope that I help you to come up with ideas as well as to inspire you to push your own creativity. So thanks for that. Also, thanks for the super thanks and the buy me a coffee. Those things really help with the rising cost of materials, and I appreciate it. So thanks for that. All right, let's get started. So this is one of my design idea books, which are available on my merch store, and the more recent ones have some charts on the back. This one has fractions of an inch to decimals to millimeters, and I think that's kind of a useful one. So they also have a nice grid pattern in the background here, which I find useful when I'm sketching up my ideas, because I'm not great at freehand drawing. Today's video doesn't have a lot of sketching going on, but I did write down some basic things we're going to talk about. I wanted to talk about some tools that have just really become essential lately, and there's more than this, but these are the 5 that really jumped to mind, and so I kind of wanted to talk about them and why I like them. And so the first one's going to be the Ergolast titanium pick, which I recently acquired one. Honeycomb soldering blocks, which I had never tried until recently. I have a lovely rolling mill from Pepe Tools. It's a 130 millimeter combo rolling mill, and that is an amazing tool. Fourth, I have acquired a decent jeweler's saw for the first time in recent years, and it's made a huge difference. And then finally, a tool called a miter vise jig, which I had never heard of until about 2 years ago. And so I don't know how long they've been around, but apparently I missed the boat on that one. Let's start by talking about the Ergolast titanium pick. One of my characteristic things on my channel, if you've watched any videos, is I do a lot of pick soldering. And up until this point, I always used these tungsten ones that are just a wooden handle with a tungsten needle sticking out of them, and they work great, and I've used those for years for pick soldering. In fact, I perfected my abilities with pick soldering using those, and there's nothing wrong with them at all. In fact, they work great. However, Pepe Tools sent me this one, and it's actually titanium instead of tungsten, and one of the things that titanium does is it doesn't transmit heat very well. And so it doesn't even need an insulated handle. You can hold it here and have this right in the hot flame, and it's not going to get hot on you. So that's kind of a cool characteristic that I wasn't aware of at first, and I find it interesting because it feels like it should be burning you, but it doesn't. The thing that surprised me about this was that I liked it so much better than the other kind of picks, and I'm not sure if I can even pinpoint exactly why. However, I can think of a couple of things that seem easier to me. One, it seems like it picks up little bits of solder a little bit easier than the tungsten ones. And it may be the shape of it, because it's more of a kind of a blade shape. It's a flattened rectangular shape if you looked at it profile-wise. That comes to a point. And for some reason, it's easier to control where that little bit of solder is when you're turning it or moving it. And it makes your pick soldering a little bit easier. The other thing is, this is actually a pretty comfortable pick to hold, and I feel like I have better control when I have something other than just a circle that I'm holding onto, or a cylinder I'm holding onto. So those are a couple of the things that I like. But what I do notice the most, though, is that it just works really well. I don't have as many problems picking up solder balls as I used to with some of the other ones when they melt. So it might be worth checking out. I really like it. I think they're about 30 or 35 bucks. I think I looked at 35 bucks I wrote down. So those are super handy and really nice to use, and I really have gotten to like it. So, and it seems to be wearing well. I've been using it for months now, and it looks like it's almost brand new still. The second thing is a different kind of soldering pad that I had never used before, and it's these honeycomb ceramic blocks. And if you look at them from the back, they got kind of a hexagonal little pattern, but on top here they're flat, and they have little perforations going through them, and they come in different sizes. In the past, I've used 3 different kinds of soldering pads. I use these solderite blocks, which are great. I still use those. Those are very useful in some situations. I use magnesia blocks, which are a soft surface, and you can push things into them, which is kind of handy in some situations. And where's my charcoal block? I have this beat up little charcoal block here, which I use for melting silver on to make little balls. And a lot of people use charcoal blocks as their primary soldering surface. Here's a couple of the things I like about these ceramic blocks. They seem to transmit heat a little bit better and heat more evenly than the solderite pads do. That's one of the characteristics. So the really cool thing that I like about these is these holes that they have in them, because there are a lot of situations where you need to keep something in position, and those allow you to put pins in place to either butt something up against, kind of keep it from moving in different directions, and that is super handy in a lot of situations. You could also even use them to elevate stuff if you wanted to, up above the pad like that, I would imagine, and I think I can think of a lot of useful ways to use that. You can do that with a magnesia block, but magnesia blocks are messy and start to break apart really quickly, and each time you use them they get a little more crumbly, and these things seem to last quite a while longer, so I like that about them. That's the primary thing that I really like about them. So far I have 0 complaints about those. Okay. The third one we're going to talk about is my 130 millimeter combo rolling mill. So we're going to go over and look at the rolling mill real quick. Okay. So up until recently I had a cheap rolling mill that I bought about 15 years ago, and it had basically been broken the entire time I was using it, and because internally one of the wheels, part of it was broken off, and so it never worked all that great. I recently got this from Pepe Tools, and it's a beautiful rolling mill. It's a combination one, and it's got these wire reduction
slots over here, so you can gradually take ingots you've cast and reduce them in smaller and smaller sizes until you get them close to where you want them to be and pull them through a draw plate to make your own wire. The flat part here you can use to flatten things out with, or you can use it to impress textures into silver sheet or brass sheet or copper sheet, and that's very handy and kind of fun to do. It's even got these half-round wire makers. I think that's what they are, anyway, but they work that way. And you run wire through those, and it flattens it out on one side and leaves it kind of domed on the other. So those are kind of handy. The way that I use this the most, probably, and I never used to do textures when I first started doing this at all. It just seemed like it didn't add that much to me, but I really have started to like making textures. So you can run it through with, texture plates that you can buy, or you can make them yourself. This is one I made a long time ago. And you can come up with all sorts of fun textures. The other thing about these reduction wheels, there's nothing better than being able to make your own materials when you run out of something. And so if you have some draw plates and you have the ability to cast little ingots, you can roll them out into your own wire and pull them through a draw plate and make your own wire. So it's a good way to reuse your scrap if you don't want to send it back and get, homemade stock. It's a little bit of work, but it is kind of cool to be able to do that. But more often than not anymore, I take wire that I have, and if I want it to be in a different dimension, like square wire in particular, I'll run it through here to kind of make it taller and flatter in one dimension, so I end up getting kind of rectangular shapes. And it allows me to make that as thick or as thin as I want, and that has come in really handy lately with some of the kind of things that I've been making. So I find that super useful. So these are available from Pepe Tools, and they're really nice mills.
Fourth, and this is a story I've told a few times on video, but I don't know if I have lately. For 20 to 25 years of doing this, I hated sawing stuff. I just was terrible at it. Every time I tried to do something that was symmetrical and I tried to saw it, all I would do was create these kindergartenish looking, badly done, no insult to kindergartners, but as an adult I should have been able to do a little better than that, but man, I never was able to get things to look very good. And it turns out part of the problem was I had a crummy saw. So I was using one of those really cheap, $8 saws that just has kind of a pressure screw on either end. And it's hard to get it to hold the blade tight, and it's harder to control, and it doesn't have any kind of give in the I guess the bow part of the thing. And once I got a decent saw, sawing became 100% easier. And now I no longer hate sawing. I am officially announcing that. I'm still not super good at it, but I'm much better at it than I used to be, and it's just because I got a better saw. So this is the kind I got, these C-shaped ones. These aren't super expensive, and they're just really pretty easy to put a new blade on and get it tight and everything. And it feels good in the hand, and when you cut stuff, it cuts very nicely. So there's a number of other higher end saws than just those basic ones. I've seen the what's it called, the Haymaker one. Those are supposed to be really good. I've never tried one, but other people have told me that they love their Haymakers. And there's one by New Concepts. It kind of looks like girders, and that one is supposed to be a good one too. I've not tried either of those, but I can vouch for these C-shaped ones. They work really nice, and I would recommend, if you're using one of those really basic ones, get a little bit nicer one. I think your sawing experience will be a lot better. So, finally is the miter vise jig, and I had never heard of that before. Nobody had bothered to tell me, so I don't know when they were first invented. But when you're trying to get, and this in particular for me is relevant when I'm trying to do things that have nice 90-degree angles,
where you're doing a miter kind of a thing, like a picture frame, right? So if you're trying to do a corner that's a perfect 90-degree angle, and you want to file the ends at a 45 like this, you can get perfect 45s on these things. And so the way I use this a lot is, like this is a piece of 12 gauge square. If I want to get a nice 45-degree angle on it, just feed it through this angled slot here like that. Line it up at the top edge. You can use a saw if you want to do this, but I like to use my file personally. You just file it flush. When you pull it out, it's got that nice 45-degree angle like that. So you can get perfect little kind of corners. And it's also got a straight. If you struggle with getting a 90-degree angle on something like that, you can clamp it in there. Just do it straight across like that. And there's a bunch of other uses too. It's got this wider part if you need a piece of sheet, and file the edge of that piece of sheet like that. So lots of uses for it, but I use it a lot for making the 90-degree angle on corners. So like I said, certainly not all of the uses, but some of the most useful tools that I've found lately, or increased my use of, and so I hope that was useful to you. I'll probably talk about some other tools at some other point, but for now, enjoy. Some of these tools I have links to in the video description, so if you're interested in like a Pepe Tools rolling mill, or either of those two, I think you can get both of those at Pepe Tools. And I know they have some high quality saws as well. I haven't really shopped there for those yet, but I bet if you look around you'll find them. So click that affiliate link in my video description if you want to get there. So, all right.
Well, that was the 5 tools that I've found to be essential and useful lately. I hope that you found that useful. And if you did, make sure to hit the like button before you leave, as well as maybe take a moment and look through some of my other videos. I have over 360 videos now, which kind of freaks me out a little bit. But that's a lot of videos, and so there's a lot of content to look through. You're almost certain to find something you'll find useful. So watch a few videos, like them, and maybe subscribe to my channel. I'd love it if you did. The other thing is there's some important links in the video description down below. There's a link about safety. There's a link to my merch store if you wanted to get my ebook or one of those design idea notebooks that are so useful. And of course, there's my affiliate link to Pepe Tools. So if you're interested in getting at least a couple of those things I showed you, I know Pepe Tools carries them, especially the rolling mill. So click on that and go buy yourself a nice new rolling mill. But there's also a link to my Patreon if you want to find out more about that community too. So check that out. Thanks for coming. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this. Take care. Happy silversmithing.